much for being here in my little corner of YouTube. I'm very pleased that you're here with me. So every week I get the genuine pleasure of talking to a different woman who works or is creative or both within the realms of motherhood and womanhood and well-being and self-care and all that good stuff that you know we're into. This week I speak to Helen from At the Fold, and Helen works with women who are on their trying to conceive or fertility or starting to start their family journey. Really beautiful, really special place to be. And she's a yoga teacher. She has a lot of very beautiful, special, powerful practices that she works with, and we have a really lovely conversation about all of that stuff. About what motherhood means, where it starts, how we deal with it, some of the pressures and some of the tools that she has in her toolkit that can and should be used not only in that beginning bit but throughout the whole motherhood journey. So really, really gorgeous conversation. And as ever, I do a little task or homework or get a little taste of what my guests do each week. So at the end, I'm going to be trying out a little technique that Helen sets me and you. So do join us as well if you want to have a little go at that. Okay, enough from me. This is meant to be a quick introduction. Please welcome and please enjoy the conversation between myself and Helen from At the Fold. Here you go. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Can you just introduce yourself and a little bit about what you do and how you got into your work and your practices and who you help and how you help and why you help?
Oh, it's so lovely to be here. So my name's Helen. This is my studio, The Fold. So I'm Helen at The Fold. I am a yoga teacher. I am many things. So I've been a teacher for 23 years now. So I was once a primary teacher, then I taught primary teachers, and yoga's been the thread along the way. And now I'm doing that full time. So I'm full time in my studio. So I predominantly work with women who are on a fertility journey, be that assisted conception or other routes into trying to bring their babies home. And I also work with women that are pregnant after a long journey. So tending to the nervous system, lots of anxiety on that journey, lots of emotional turbulence, and that's kind of where I come in. And increasingly now, I am also supporting people who are navigating motherhood after a long journey to get to motherhood, because it is a journey. And from that moment when you decide that you want to try and have a baby, or that starts to percolate down, it has begun. So yeah, I really think of it as a landscape, and it isn't just the trying to conceive, it's what happens afterwards, all that kind of stuff. So yoga, breath, meditation. I've just been on a womb massage training, so I'm going to bring in kind of the modality of touch. It's a very mixed curation.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. I love the concept that it's a really holistic experience. You know, you're not kind of breaking it down into chunks of this is the thing and this is the thing and this is the thing. It sounds very inclusive, which is amazing. How do you think, I mean, I don't know how long you've been in this space, but is it changing? Because I get the impression that the kind of environment and the landscape of trying to conceive and fertility and stuff might be shifting. Is it?
I hope so. So I started my journey 10 years ago now. Gosh, it might be longer than that, maybe 11 years ago. And I think things have changed a significant amount since then in terms of where people can access support and community. So for me at that time, it was pre-Instagram. So it was Mumsnet. You could go on Mumsnet. Yeah. There were a couple of other forums, I think. I think there was a baby and bump forum. I'm not sure if that exists any longer. But now I think there is more visibility. So there are more places that you can go. And I like to think that makes people feel that they are more supported and that have got places they can go and speak to it. But at the same time, it can still be such a deeply private experience. So, and I guess it depends very much whether you are a social media user or whether you know that the levels of support that are out there for you. But I think we are talking about things much more these days, whereas maybe even a decade ago, that things were a little bit more under the carpet and unseen.
Yeah, that's encouraging. And I guess it's twofold, isn't it? Like there's the practicalities of having the information or the support, you know, things flagged, but also just that, I guess, feeling of community or support, or you know, that you're not isolated in that journey. So that's encouraging. Good, I'm glad. Can I ask a little bit about in terms of, because you mentioned your yoga teaching, obviously teaching must be in your DNA, is what must be what you're called to do, which is great. In terms of kind of practical stuff that you do with the people that you work with, or the people that are on this journey, a lot of yoga, I presume, a lot of, you mentioned womb massage, how much is kind of emotional support, and how much is based in kind of, I don't know, biology and nervous system calming and things, how much is kind of scientifically trying to conceive, and how much is the kind of emotional thing, and where's the crossover, and what does that look like?
Oh, so much I could say about that. So I tend to not talk about nutrition, supplements, all of that kind of stuff, because I know that people will be accessing that in the way that they need. At the core, for me, it's about helping people to have, even if it's just for the hour that they come into a session with me, space to switch off from that a little bit and to find some kind of stillness, or maybe a place to acknowledge things that are going on, letting things settle, letting things land, in the hope that that might have some little ripples out in terms of sleep, in terms of tools and practices that they can learn, maybe tools with the breath, maybe, you know, particular poses that we focus on. And I can talk about that in a minute. And also about you being enough. You know, I think when you are trying to conceive and it's taking longer, you start to look for answers, you start to seek, you start to maybe make changes to lifestyle and diet, and it can become a lot. So my focus is a lot more, let's come back to you. You know, this isn't your fault. And you're probably doing so much to try and make this happen, because that is our, you know, that's the drive, is to like, what can I change, what can I do? But let's come back to you, and let's not lose the amazingness of you in it. So that's more my angle in, rather than, you know, giving people.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I really like that. I had a very brief glimpse into kind of the fertility and trying to conceive world. Happily, I didn't have a long struggle, but I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, so there was a little bit of that journey. It took a year to 18 months of kind of doing a lot of changes, and one of the kind of cruel catch-22s that I came across was this idea that you have to be stress-free and relaxed, and the more relaxed you are, the more likely it is to happen. But it's hard to relax, because you want to do everything you can, and like you say, you want to do the right nutrition and the right supplements, and then this idea of relaxing becomes like, right, okay, on the list I need to relax, okay, I must relax. So the idea that you're kind of having that very safe space to come back to you and work on all that, kind of just a moment of peace, sounds
because
fantastic.
With all the best will in the world, people will say things like, we'll just go on holiday, you know, have a break, go on holiday, and it'll probably happen. My friend, she just like went to the Caribbean on a cruise, you know. It was so much of that. It was like, but then ultimately the kind of small print of that is like, it's you, because you're not. But even though you're doing loads and loads of things, it's that paradox of, well, how on earth am I relaxing when I'm actually thinking that I might soon need to talk about assisted conception? I don't feel relaxed. And taking the kind of blame away from that, because how could you possibly be relaxed? And it's not, I don't offer any of my classes a kind of, this is going to support, I know some fertility yoga classes do, but I don't offer it as a kind of, this is going to help you get pregnant, this is going to help you do this many women came to this class. I don't do that. It's about attending to you and looking after you and having a space. And I think having potentially a space where you can see that there are other people going through it as well, and maybe make those connections. Yeah, all the tenderness, because it's so easy to start to blame yourself, I think.
Yeah, for sure. That's so important. That's just sounds so warm and so special. That's amazing. Okay, excellent. And so thinking again about those practices that you do, what do you think can be introduced at this early stage of the motherhood journey that can then be kind of kept on throughout?
Your toolkit, your little toolkit. So
Okay.
yoga that I would do, the yoga that I am doing with women that come to me that are in the trying to conceive space of the story, very much focuses on the pelvis, the pelvic bowl. It's also safe. So if people are mid-assisted conception cycle, we avoid certain poses. So it's like it's a package of appropriateness.
Yeah.
So an opportunity for you to connect with the womb space, connect with your body, because we can get kind of a bit choppy with our relationship with our body sometimes on that journey, but also restorative yoga. So coming into that stillness, a space to rest, because I think, you know, we strive, we're busy, when we have got time, we feel, I know I do, I'm speaking to myself, there's impulse that I should really go on a run or a walk or do something quite active, and actually it's that permission to just stop. So yeah, props, the bolster, all the looks, the blankets. I really encourage people to make that space really cozy. Lots of breath technique, because we've always got the breath, and no matter how busy we are, we can kind of find a minute with the breath. Do yoga nidra, which is like a yogic sleep, guided relaxations, visualizations. It's a mix. So whatever I'm in the mood for that week, it tends to be a blend in every session of all of those things, just so that people can feel they've got that space to come in.
Yeah.
Draw a curtain around the world.
Yeah, just press pause, just breathe. I love that idea. I'm really fascinated by the womb and did you call it the pelvic bowl?
Yeah. I think we can lose connection, or there can be hostility, or there can be frustration, and it's about kind of just tapping into what is feeling. And we don't always know what we're feeling. Like, so many people say, how are you? It's like, I don't know. So maybe we don't know. Maybe it's just about getting curious. Maybe it's about having that space to just see what is arising and tend to what's arising, because it's hard sometimes tuning into our emotions. So yeah, working with people in that place, and then supporting them throughout pregnancy, if that's where they then end up, and motherhood or not. So it's a journey that goes in tangents in different directions. It's a journey that people sometimes press pause on. It's a journey where maybe they go and seek alternative ways of building their family. So I'm trying to really, now that I'm in this space full time, make sure that people can feel supported wherever it is that they travel through. And I think, yeah, as we if you have been on a longer journey, then pregnancy arrives, it can be maybe not what you thought, brilliant, amazing, but also with its challenges. And then motherhood's the same. And I think sometimes we can think the longer that we've tried and the harder we've tried to get there, we should find it easier, or we should have like the gratitude will like kind of somehow erase the challenges of motherhood. And I think I want to speak to that as well. And how can we take some of those things and still use them and still passion into what is really hard,
It's such an important message, and it comes back to the same kind of recurring ideas, doesn't it, of a lot of guilt and a lot of kind of self-blaming and stuff. And I can relate to that as well in my very bumpy introduction to life with a newborn. And that's a really, really important part of the journey as well, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think you need to be able to say, I am finding this part of it hard, and yes, I tried 8 years and I have my baby now, but you're still allowed to find it as hard as anybody else, because it's a complete mixed package of all the emotions, isn't it, when you arrive in that land.
Yes. Oh yes. Can you touch on, I don't know how far you go along down that journey, but for people like me and others that have, so my daughter's 3 now, what can we be doing to tap into maybe our womb space again? Because do we go, oh cheers, done.
Womb, it's heart, isn't it? I think so. I kind of the way that I think about it is the heart womb connection. So we think of this kind of you know, like a river between the two. You might breathe from the heart into the womb space. You might just check in, because and becoming attuned to our cycles as well. And everyone will be in a different place with that. But I think increasingly as I've got older, it just starts to all make a lot of sense, you know, like there's a part in my cycle where I will have more energy and I will have more to give to people. And there's a part in my cycle where if possible, which it often isn't, particularly if you are working and you've got little children, might need to rest here. And like actually thinking about that holistic space so that you can kind of be with the seasons of your body. I think that can be quite helpful. There's some great books for that. I don't know whether you've read Wild Power or Maisie Hill's got Period Power. There's that kind of, when I'm in my summer, that's probably when I should be doing, you know, doing the podcast and being out there, because that's how I'm feeling. And if I'm coming into autumn and winter when I'm on my bleed, then maybe I won't book that in. It's hard. It's really hard, because life isn't constructed like that, is it? Our society isn't constructed like that. But I think we have to disconnect from
constant treadmill.
Yeah.
It can be hard just because you're going through the cycles of, you know, working every day, or maybe school term times or whatever, and your kind of logistical life is on a different rhythm to your kind of natural life. I think it's,
you know, so if you whack your trainers on the first day of your period and try and go for a run, most of us will know that doesn't always feel that great, you know, and yet we're not used to not thinking away from the diary and actually tuning back into us. So I think that can be quite helpful if people can go there. And just, you know, micro things, because you haven't got the time. You quite often just don't have the time to go and do an hour's yoga and then half an hour meditation. That doesn't exist.
No, I mean, I try and advocate for that quite a lot in what I'm doing with Tassie, is like finding those micro moments and doing the little and often approach to looking after yourself and all that kind of stuff.
And being compassionate towards yourself, that you can't, you know, like, so what might I be able to do? And then that, if you are a yogi and you suddenly find that in motherhood it's gone, it's like, well, maybe your yoga looks like a walk today, and that is your time to be mindful. And if you're out there walking with the buggy, then put on a walking meditation. Or it's about kind of making it fit, isn't it, rather than berating yourself that you haven't done you haven't done like your half an hour journaling, because how can you? It's just really, really hard.
And like you said, being able to go, and that's okay. And also I think just noting that it's not permanent, you know, like anything in life, love, friendships, work, hobbies, they will come and go. And just because you can't do your half an hour a day of intense yoga practice at the moment, you might come back to that at some point, you know. And that's
so powerful, because when you're in it, and I think for me particularly those first 6 months, time spins out of orbit, doesn't it? And they can feel very, very, very long, and yet you haven't achieved very much in that very, very long day. The impermanence of that, and remembering, because it doesn't always feel like that, you know, if you haven't slept properly in 3 years.
I remember my mum saying to me in those like hazy newborn days, she said, I know it doesn't feel like it at the moment, but this won't last forever, because you just can't imagine, can't you? And I think whatever stage you're at, whether it's the newborn stage or whatever stage of that journey you're in, you can't imagine sometimes the next bit, but it always comes.
It is, and it's so true. I think someone said to me once, you know, the days are long and the years are short. And my little boy turns 6 next month, and he's just lost both of his front teeth. And it's like, oh, where did that go? Like, I know when I was on, you know, 2 hours of choppy sleep a night, how long that felt. And then things change. It's just evolution, isn't it? Things change, but that's really hard to keep hold of, I think, when you're having those days where you think, I don't know how I'm going to do today. I remember being in the shower sometimes thinking, especially if my husband was away, like, I don't know how, I can't do it, you know, you kind of think I can't do it, but you do it. And
you find a way. It just moves on. Helen, with all this in mind, have you got a little homework task that I can demonstrate and that anyone else watching us might be able to come and have a go at as well?
So it's two-folded for you. It's super simple, the first one. Second one, you're going to have to see how you feel. So it's like a two-parter. So this is something that I would teach people if they're finding that they are starting to feel a bit or the anxiety is bubbling, or it's just the breath. So it's dead easy. It's just conscious breath. If you can get outside to do your conscious breathing, and you don't have to do it very long, and it is breathing in for 5, maybe hand on the heart, breathing out for 5, and you might just do a few rounds of that, and then just notice where you've traveled from the beginning to the end. So you have to kind of find the point in the day where you think, oh, this, maybe I just need, I'm going to do that. So just notice that state change just by connecting with the body. It might be hand on the heart. It might, if things are getting a little bit, like, you really need, you could actually do a kind
of I like that.
hug. Yeah. You do that conscious breath of 5 in, 5 out. So that's your kind of like looking in my toolkit, and I've got a lot of stuff I could put in the toolkit, but I'm looking in my toolkit. So you can just try that, explore with that. And then the second part of that, which I think is really good, and this would be, I don't know, have you got a garden?
Yes.
You get out there with bare feet and earth. So you take those shoes and socks off, and I know we're coming into colder weather, so you can maybe try it a couple of times. And if you can do that conscious breath whilst making connection with the earth, you can do a lot of reading about earthing. I think it kind of amplifies the shift you can get with the breath. So you could explore both, I think, and add a little layer in. I do like to get earthed. It's very big.
I do. Do you know what? I don't do it very often, but it's one of those things that pops into my mind every now and then. I think, let's just come out in the garden. I do it, and I do it with my daughter as well. I love that. I would definitely do that. And
you know how we feel if we're walking barefoot on the sand. It's just, there's that kind of connection, isn't there? And I don't think we always tend to think to go and do it on our own lawn or we're in the park, but yeah, I think that can be quite powerful. You can try that and you can see how you get on.
There's definitely just something nice about having nothing on your feet, isn't there? Just about kind of stripping back. And then, like you said, there's a lot of, if you want to do more kind of research into it, there's a lot of scientific explanations as to why that helps us. Zac Efron mentioned it. You're a Zac Efron fan?
I'm not actually. Well, who could not be to look at? But yeah, no, I didn't know that he
did a really good documentary, him and Darren O'Lean. It was all about different sustainability ideas and projects and stuff all over the world. I can't for the life of me think what it is, but it was really interesting, and they're doing another season. And I remember he mentioned a thing as a good technique if you're doing a lot of long distance flying and stuff, to kind of check into like the time.
We're on Zoom all the time, and we're like in the ether, aren't we? We're in this kind of, we're here, and it's like you're in the studio, but we're not. And I think that can be a really nice addition. So yeah, your breath and your earthing. And then I think for anybody watching this, it's about kind of thinking, okay, what can I do even if I've got 1 minute? So just connecting with that breath, 5 breathing in for 5, breathing out for 5. It might be that you have you make yourself a playlist, which is your playlist to just go to, that is like, right, okay, it just signals to your body that let's put this on. That could be something really nice that you do with your kid as well, that you've got that kind of music. It's little things. Getting into, clean sheets. Have you got time for a bath? Just all that kind of small micro, particularly making connection with yourself and just tuning in doesn't take very long. I remember doing like I hadn't been able to practice yoga for so long. I was like, right, I'm going to start doing some poses in the kitchen whilst I'm doing some other things, because that's, that kind of worked for me then. It was like, okay, it doesn't matter, I'm just going to have 3 poses that I do. Or like legs up the wall, you're in bed and you get your legs up the wall, and that can just be just a little slices, and just think it does, I'm doing my best.
Yeah, it's amazing actually how much those tiny little things can just give you a little reset. I find that as well, and I love the idea of the snake.
Yeah, just like with your fingers and just like sitting, or there's a really good point in your ear here to Shen Men.
Yeah,
a little bit just where the finger naturally fits.
Yeah.
This is you're alone and you don't feel silly. Sitting there with your, that's really, really calming acupoint. So, you've got to find what works. Amazing. Get out for a walk, get sun on our face, especially now we're going to be losing the light. I think a bit of that nature medicine, because it's so easy at the moment to not, if we're working from home, to just be in and not even get that on that vitamin D.
I've been really trying to get outside actually, and really try to get outside early in my day. I kind of do school run and make sure I do like 5 minutes, not long, just walk around the block just to get that light in my eyeballs and a couple of breaths of fresh air before I get going. But yeah, it's not easy. It's not always easy, especially if it's chucking it down. Like, it's been nice this week in the mornings, but if it's chucking it down, it might be a different picture.
It hasn't here. It is now, not in Manchester. You need your umbrella. But I think anything can be made micro. I think if you were a journaler and then you suddenly don't have time to journal, you could write a sentence, I feel, finish here, and then you could just like build that up over a week. It's just allowing your body to feel the thing that you're maybe craving, like a little micro dose, isn't it? And then you can. Sometimes that motivates you to do more. It's like
often.
If you haven't gone if you're a runner and then you suddenly fall off the wagon, the thought of doing it and then you go and do it, it's like, oh, really, actually, I enjoyed that. Why am I not doing it? I think those reminders can be helpful.
Yeah, it's often the case, isn't it? Just doing it just for a couple, just say, I'm just gonna do it for a couple of minutes, and then it often works. It's the same with cleaning, I find. I'll just wipe down the coffee table, and then inevitably I'll end up doing a few more things. So
yeah, totally.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much. Can you tell us a little bit more, if people want to come and find you or know how they can work with you, where can people find you and get hold of you?
So mostly I hang out on Instagram. That seems to be my preferred medium for whatever reason it is. So I'm at the Fold. I've got classes running for anybody on a trying to conceive journey. I've got classes coming up in November for people that are either trying to conceive, who are pregnant, and maybe it's been a long time to get there, or maybe they're finding that pregnancy anxious. It's not in November. It's not going to be a community kind of space. You can just literally drop in and just be there. No questions asked. And I do one-to-one work. So I work as a conception doula, so working closely with people on that journey and maybe in the first trimester of pregnancy as well, and various other things that I whack out there when I feel called to do women's circles sometimes.
Nice. I've been meaning to get to a women's circle for the longest time. I haven't yet found one near to me, but
but there's so much online now, isn't there? So probably be doing something around in December, some kind of I've got some ideas bubbling for something like that.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, of course, I will make sure we can link you everywhere. And I must say as well, I know I said it to you on an Instagram DM, but your Instagram is so beautiful, and all your stories are they're so beautifully curated with the music, and they're very artistic. It's a joy, and you're really portraying what you do very well over Instagram. So I love
energy. Little space. Oh, thank you. And you too. I love your Instagram. It's always there's a vibrancy to it that's so lovely, and I'm so glad you're doing what you're doing, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that you are really supporting.
Likewise, thank you so much. It's been such a lovely conversation, and do stay in touch.
I will.
And I'm going to get my socks off, and I'm going to go and do some breathing in the garden, and I'll let you know how I get on.
Don't take very long. See where you go.
Excellent. Nice to speak to you. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
So this has actually come at a really good time, because I'm feeling a little bit like got lots to do today. I need to pop out for a few things. I've got some friends coming for dinner tonight, which would be lovely, but I've got some deadlines at work, and I'm feeling a bit like so I'm going to take my socks off, babes, and I'm going to have a little breathe in the God, my garden's so messy. Kendall from last week's chat will be like ashamed of my garden. I need to dig up my veg patch, I need to have a tidy. Anyway, that's not the point. I'm going to stand and I'm going to connect the soles of my feet to the soles of Mother Nature. Okay, I don't know what I'm talking about. Check out my socks though. Like funky pineapple socks. Anyway, they're coming off, babes. And we are going to go for a little Hello, it's me. Just as I'm stood there enjoying a little moment of peace in the sun, please avert your eyes from my dying vegetable patch. I felt so gorgeous after this practice. I wholeheartedly welcome you to do the same. depending on the weather where you are today. Thank you again to Helen for a gorgeous chat, and I'll see you next week.